So, mashallah, my wife, she was the president of the Girls Islamic Organization of Pune. And she used to give talks in Urdu. She was fluent in English. She was a lecturer in the college. And I said, yes, this is the girl I want, virtuous, mashallah, taqwa, and we got married. People told, okay, now that you got married, now you'll give less time for dawah. Previously I used to give about 9 hours a day, 10 hours a day. When I got married, I started giving 12 to 13 hours. Venn diagram, she came, we started a ladies organization. First, Islamic Research Foundation didn't have a ladies wing. I got married on the 16th of May, 1993. A very simple marriage in a mosque. At that time, it was well known that people give big receptions, and my father being well off and very well known, I made it a point, and my wife too wanted a very simple nikah. So we only had a nikah in a mosque, and we only gave dates, that also dried dates. It was a very simple marriage because the beloved Prophet said, make nikah simple so that zina would become difficult. And the best marriage is that in which the least expense is made. So we had a very simple nikah. And mashallah, there were more than 2,000 people for my nikah. Not because of me, because of my father. The only thing we spent was, sending invitations. And mashallah, more than 2,000 in a mosque, it was unheard of. For a nikah, unheard. In 1993. And then we had a walima, very simple. We only called 19 people, direct brothers, sisters of mine, and brothers, sisters, and their spouses from my wife's side, only 19 people. And we called 50 people from the orphanage. But the Prophet said, in the walima, there should be poor people. So 50 people from the orphanage, 19 relatives of me and my wife, we hardly spend 3,000 rupees on the walima, that's it. 3,000 rupees would be 1,800 ringgit. So to give an example, and when my wife's relatives came, we kept them in my relatives' home. We put beddings on the floor. We could have booked the best of 5-star hotel, we could afford it. But we wanted to make the marriage very simple. So much so that we saved the money, what we could spend on the marriage, and we bought a new office for the organization. And that was the foundation. And it grew, mashallah. So what we could spend millions of ringgit on the wedding, which normally is done, compared to the status that we had, we spent that money in buying an office. I said, I don't want a house for myself, I want office for the Dawah organization. And that was an investment. And this organization, Islamic Research Foundation, it grew, mashallah. And we'll come to it later on. Then mashallah, on the 10th of July, about 1 year, 2.5 months later, after the marriage, on 10th of July, 1996, my son, Farik, was born. And we asked an Arabic scholar, I want a name which is like a Dai, unique name, so he gave the name Farik. Farik means to differ between the haq and batil, the truth against falsehood. A unique name, same like Farooq. And after Farik was born, he was hardly 2.5 months, and we went to meet Sheikh Ahmad Didat. In 1994, we went to meet Sheikh Ahmad Didat. And Farik was 2.5 months old, and we have the photograph of Sheikh Didat carrying my son, Farik. And he blessed him, and we can see the results of his dua. At that time, I gave my first lecture abroad in South Africa in the Grey Street Durban Mosque. It was the largest mosque of South Africa, and the person sitting in front of me was Sheikh Ahmad Didat. And I was nervous that Sheikh Ahmed Didat listening to my talk. And after that talk, he gave me a certificate calling me Didat Plus in 1994. And I said, surely this man is great. He wants to encourage me. Therefore he called me. I was nothing. And then I asked his son, that has your father given this title to anyone else? He said, no, you're the only person. I thought maybe, to encourage youngsters, people try and give. He said, no. I said, what did Sheikh Didat see in me that he gave me this title? And in the Grey Street Mosque, there were more than 1,000 people there, maybe a few thousand people, mashallah, for the Jummah Salah. And he told me, son, you are coming from India, you have large audiences. When you go to Saudi Arabia, Gulf countries, expect only 5 or 10 people. Maybe in the mosque, maybe in the university. Don't expect hundreds and thousands of people like you have in India. So expect only 5 people, 10 people, and then slowly, inshallah, later on you may get popularity. So when I went to give my first talk after Durban in 1996, in the beginning of 1996, the first talk I gave in Jeddah, I was expecting about 10 to 15 people. And mashallah, for the first talk in Jeddah, there were more than 1,000 people. I was shocked. Then I realized some people had copied my video cassette and they distributed it. I had hardly given 3-4 lectures. It became viral. And Saudi Arabia is the hub. People from all over the world come to work there. From USA, from Canada, from UK, from Malaysia, you have from Australia, all over the world people come and work there. So from there, it became viral throughout the world and I started receiving invitations from throughout the world. That was how I started my international talks. And in 1996, while I was doing my Hajj with my wife, we were supposed to go to Masjid Aqsa after Hajj. I received the information that Sheikh Ahmed Didat, rahimullah, may Allah grant him Jannah, Jannat al-Firdaus, he received a stroke and he was paralyzed. I immediately cancelled my trip. I told my wife, go back to Bombay. I went to the South African embassy, stamped a visa, and I was the first person from abroad to visit Sheikh Ahmed Didat when he got the stroke. And he was hospitalized. Then his son requested me, his name is Yusuf Didat, that my father is supposed to give a series of talk in Cape Town. Can you replace him? I said, how can I give in place of your father? He said, no, the program is organized, people will come. And I went to Cape Town and I gave the talks on behalf of Sheikh Ahmed Didat in 1996. And then later on I kept visiting him a few times. And I remember in 2020 when I went, and Sheikh Ahmed Didat's favorite pastime after he got the stroke was watching my video cassettes. So when I went to meet him again in 2020, when he saw me try to cry, and we used to communicate via the eyes. Because the person who's in coma, who cannot move around, who had hemiplegia, there's a method of communication, there is a chart. Line number 1, A, B, C, D, E. Line number 2, F, G, H, I, J. Line number 3, it goes on. So if you want to communicate, if he has to say I, 1, 2, he blinks. So second line, F, G, H, I, blink. So every letter you can spell by blinking your eye. So I was communicating with me, he said, I want to give you a message. And he gave that message to me. And that message, it took time, and his son was there. He said, son, my son, what you have achieved in 4 years had taken me 40 years to achieve, alhamdulillah. And then his son took a plaque and he printed this with his thumbprint in 2020 May. Son, what you have achieved in 4 years had taken me 40 years to achieve, alhamdulillah. And that was the biggest award that I got in my life.